Behind closed doors at the US Open, something absolutely explosive just went down that has the entire tennis world completely shook. I'm talking about a confrontation so intense, so completely out of pocket that it's got everyone from Naomi Osaka to Andy Roddick coming for Jeļena Ostapenko's entire career. And honestly, when I tell you what happened between her and Taylor Townsend, you're going to understand why people are saying this might be the end of everything for the Latvian player. So, picture this. You've just lost straight sets at the US Open. You're frustrated. You're embarrassed. And instead of taking the L with some dignity, you decide to completely lose it on your opponent. That's exactly what Jeļena Ostapenko did. And the footage of her telling Taylor Townsend she has no class and no education is literally of some daydrums imbalance all over the end of the week. John Pendeneski and Sarah Murata because Taylor didn't apologize for a lucky neck cord shot. Like, are you serious right now? I'm not even making this up. This whole drama started because of tennis etiquette. You know how when you hit a shot that barely catches the net and still goes over for a winner, players usually raise their hand like, sorry, lucky shot. Well, Taylor Townsend didn't do that during a crucial point. And Ostapenko completely lost her mind. She literally said, and this is a direct quote, "There are some rules in tennis which most of the players follow. And it was the first time ever that this happened to me on tour. But wait, it gets so much worse." After losing 7-5, 6-1, which by the way is not even dose, instead of shaking hands and moving on like a professional, Ostapenko decided to go full nuclear. The cameras caught everything as she basically tried to lecture Taylor about having no education. And when you consider that Taylor is a black athlete in a predominantly white sport, you can imagine how that landed with literally. It was beautiful to see. And it was fun to kind of deal with someone. Naomi Osaka, who never really gets involved in drama, came out swinging. She said, and I'm quoting here, "I think obviously it's one of the worst things you can say to a black tennis player in a majority white sport." But then she dropped this bomb that had me shook. She said this wasn't even the craziest thing Ostapenko has ever said. Like, what does that even mean? How much worse has this gotten before? And honestly, when you look at Ostapenko's track record, it starts making sense why everyone's so fed up. This isn't some one-time heat of the moment thing. Remember her blow-up at the 2024 Australian Open warm-up where she completely went off on a chair empire, or that nasty Wimbledon fight with Azella Tommy where they were calling each other liars and saying no respect and worst player on tour. This is a pattern and people are tired of it. Andy Roddick, who you know has had his own moments on court, absolutely destroyed her on his podcast. He said, "Ostapenko lecturing someone about dash on a tennis court is like me lecturing someone about trying everything they can to stop losing their hair. It's like the heights of hypocrisy." But then he went even harder, suggesting she needs to learn to look people in the eye when she shakes hands. Coming from Andy Roddick, that hits different because you know he's been there. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation. The complete lack of self-awareness from Ostapenko. Even after all this backlash, she posted on social media doubling down, saying Taylor was being disrespectful and that if she plays in her homeland, it doesn't mean that she can behave and do whatever she wants. Nah, like the audacity is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, Ostapenko did eventually post some kind of apology on Instagram, but honestly, it felt more like damage control than genuine remorse. She blamed it on English not being her first language and said she was only talking about tennis etiquette. But the thing is, you can't just say whatever you want to someone and then hide behind language barriers when people call you out. And can we talk about how Taylor Townsend handled this entire situation? Because that woman showed more class in her press conference than most people could manage in a lifetime. When reporters asked her directly about potential racial undertones, she said she didn't take it that way personally, but acknowledged the history of those kinds of comments being used against black athletes. The grace, the intelligence, the composure, it made Ostapenko look even worse by comparison. What's really interesting is how the tennis world has rallied around Taylor. She upset number 5 Mara Andreeva in her next match. And honestly, it felt like karma in action. Meanwhile, Ostapenko couldn't even face reporters after losing in doubles, citing medical reasons. The contrast is telling. Aryna Sabalenka, who's usually diplomatic about everything, even chimed in with some pretty harsh words. She said she tried to talk to Ostapenko after the match, but couldn't get through to her. Then she dropped this bombshell. "I think she has problems in her life, dealing with difficulties unrelated to tennis, that make her an unstable person." Oh, when the world number one is basically saying you need help, that's not a good look. The thing is, tennis has always been the sport where you're expected to compete like a warrior, but carry yourself with dignity. There's this unwritten code about respecting your opponent even when you're frustrated or things aren't going your way. And what Ostapenko did just completely violated that code in the most public way possible. Now, Everyone's talking about whether this should result in more than just a fine. Some people are calling for actual suspensions because this isn't just a one-off incident. When you have a pattern of behavior like this, when multiple players and commentators are saying, "and enough is needed," but when you have a form of medicine and modern twist, "enough is not needed." The broader conversation this has sparked about respect, race, and accountability in tennis is honestly overdue. For too long, the dude's parents have gotten away with outrage behavior because they're talented or drawn to it. But there's a line, and most people agree, Ostapenko crossed it in a major way. What makes this even more frustrating is that Ostapenko is genuinely talented. She won the French Open in 2017. She can play incredible tennis when she wants to, but her reputation for this kind of drama is starting to overshadow everything else. And in the sport that's trying to grow and attract new fans, having players act like this on the biggest stages is just not acceptable. The worst part is how this whole thing started over something so petty. We're talking about a split-second decision about whether to apologize for a lucky shot. Most players wouldn't even notice or care. Looking at the broader pattern here, it seems like Ostapenko has this thing where she can't handle adversity or unexpected situations. When things don't go exactly how she thinks they should, she lashes out. And honestly, that's not just a tennis problem. That's a life problem that probably needs addressing. The tennis community's reaction has been pretty unanimous, and that's rare. Usually you get some people defending the player, making excuses about competitive pressure or cultural differences. But this time, even former players who understand the heat of competition are saying she went too far. What's really sad is that this could have been a learning moment. Ostapenko could have taken the loss, maybe been privately frustrated about the net cord thing, but handled it with maturity. Instead, she chose to go nuclear. And now her reputation is probably damaged beyond repair with a lot of fans and fellow players. The timing couldn't be worse either. Tennis is having this incredible moment with new stars, amazing storylines, and growing global audiences. Having this kind of ugly drama at the US Open, one of the sport's biggest stages, just feels counterproductive to all the progress the sport has made. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more impressed I am with how Taylor Townsend handled everything. She stayed focused, she kept winning matches, and she addressed the situation with more grace than Ostapenko deserved. That's the kind of professionalism that should be celebrated and rewarded. The question now is whether tennis authorities will actually do something meaningful about this pattern of behavior, or if they'll just hand out another meaningless fine and hope it goes away. Because based on the reactions from players, fans, and media, this isn't going away quietly. At the end of the day, this whole situation just reinforces why sportsmanship matters so much in tennis. The sport has this incredible tradition of respect and dignity. And when players violate that, it affects everyone. Ostapenko's behavior doesn't just reflect badly on her, it reflects badly on tennis as a whole. So, what do you think about this whole mess? Was Ostapenko completely out of line, or do you think people are overreacting to competitive emotions? And more importantly, do you think tennis needs to start taking a harder stance on this kind of behavior? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this story or other tennis drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.